going to tell you a little something about our guest speaker. We know him here and we love him here, but let me tell you about him. He has been a spiritual leader, a counselor, and a coach for over, it's either says 54 years or 34 years. Patrick, I'm sorry, I did not bring my glasses. I doubt it's 54 years. All right. And reaches hundreds of thousands with his writing, personal media appearances. Patrick is the author of The Magic of the Soul, Spiritual Power to Daily Living. He is a founder of Living Purpose Institute and creator of the Life Coaching Certification Program and Primal Fire Intensive. He was ordained as an independent, religious science minister by the late Dr. Earl Barnum in 1985, affiliated with Centers for Spiritual Living in 2010. He's also ordained and recognized as a doctor of divinity through the Spiritual Unity Movement, of which he was the president for 12 years. He founded Meditation Magazine. He's formerly the director of Sage Publications, a world-renowned sacred science publisher. He will be available after the service to sign up books and also do the workshop this afternoon. And speaking on the simple way to deep, sacred, inner silence, please welcome Reverend Dr. Patrick Harbula.
Give another some more love to this band. Are they amazing or what? Wow, wow, wow. They are amazing. And did you know that Oliver, he just walked out the door. I wanted to say this to him. Because I got to visit with my friend Lucille yesterday, the Canadian Music Hall of Fame, and Oliver's name used to be on that wall. I was going to deliver the bad news to him. It's not there anymore. He was replaced by someone else. But isn't that amazing? And by the way, that solo, to be completely honest, your name's not in the Hall of Fame anymore. Your picture isn't there anymore. Deliver the bad news now. Well, I don't know. It wasn't there yesterday. They just replaced you with someone else, but you'll cycle back again, don't worry. But that solo, to be perfectly honest, as you can tell, I kind of like upbeat music. I thought, somewhere over the rainbow, it's a little boring, but at the first note, I knew this is going to be special. You just killed it. And every time Pat introduces me, including at Asilomar about a month ago, she doesn't wear glasses, so it changes a little bit. But And let me tell you, though, because I know you know how lucky you are. She was the MC for the entire conference, and she had us in stitches the whole time. This lady just exudes joy, which is what my workshop is about later. Give her some love, yeah? Yeah, good idea. I will do that. I will do that. So, I have a question. I'll do a little pop quiz here. What are the two most important concepts in our science of mind teaching? Number one. Change your thinking, change your life, I heard. That's right. What's the other one? Oneness. You got it. And those are the first 1, 2, and 3 steps of spiritual mind treatment, which Reverend Marjorie so masterfully led us through a few moments ago. So the first step is oneness. There's one power that pervades everything in life. Second step is, and that's called recognition, by the way. Second step is unification, so I am one with that power. Third step is realization, so I'm realizing that one power applies to everything in my life, and I can apply it to specific things. And we might think that the third step is kind of the most important, because that's the one we spend the most time on. If it's a health issue, I'm going to spend time on applying that oneness, that perfection of oneness, to that particular issue in my life. But actually, the most important step is number one. In fact, Ernest Holmes said, if you get oneness, if you get that concept, and more importantly, embody that and feel that and experience it, guess what? You don't need all the other steps. There are 5 steps in the traditional treatment. 4th is thanksgiving. 5th is release. But if you get oneness, then everything is contained within that. It's good to do the 5 steps until you get to that, but once you get to that and you're living that consistently in life, that's what you need. My teacher, Earl Barnum, said at the end of his life, he said, I don't do spiritual mind treatment anymore. He said, if you want me to pray for you, I'll say the words. But the best treatment I can do for you is to know that you don't need a treatment. Right? That you're perfect just the way you are. So, what would you say is the most effective way to go into the experience of oneness? Anyone? Meditation. You got it. Now, you might think that Patrick comes out, he just had a book published on meditation, so he's going to do a lecture about meditation so he can sell some books. And you'd be right. But really, that's the minor reason. That's really the external reason. The deeper story of that is, in writing this book, I have been inspired to make it my mission to invite people into the depths of silent mind meditation, because that's where oneness happens. It's one thing to study oneness. It's one thing to read about it. It's one thing to talk about it. It's a whole other thing to experience it in a deep way. Now, I've never lectured in my entire life about meditation until this tour that I'm doing up here in Canada started about a month ago. And I'm not sure why. I think part of it is that I've been meditating since I was 18 years old, and it's so natural to me. It's just so automatic that it's like brushing my teeth. I don't really think of it. I just get up in the morning and I do it. And the other thing, I wasn't sure if people would really want to hear about the benefits of deep meditation. But writing this book and researching and finding out the physiological benefits as well as the benefits that I experience just inspired to me to realize that everyone needs to be invited to go into this experience. So I'm going to read to you a few of the passages from the book. So first, just the health benefits. And I was just amazed. I knew about a lot of these things, but I didn't realize that there there were scientific studies that actually proved all of these benefits. There is scientific evidence that meditation can be beneficial in the following areas. Decreased memory loss. That's kind of important, right? Increased brain function and synchronization. Did you know that sustained, consistent meditation has been proven to actually increase gray matter in your brain, to make your brain larger? Improvement for post-traumatic stress disorder, lowers cholesterol, pain reduction, improved immune function, healing, reduced anxiety, reduced insomnia, decreased risk of stroke and heart disease, lower blood pressure, improved learning, reductions in depression, improved intelligence, improved emotional intelligence, quality of life in cancer patients, improved creativity, higher self-awareness, problem solving, compassion for self and others. But these, to me, are the least important benefits. The most important benefits are the deep peace, the experience of self-love, the experience of love for everything, the bliss. You know, I was over in Kamloops. I was staying there for a few days and doing some workshops, and I was staying with Amanda and Derek, and I had an accident I'd never had before. My hand hit a glass of water, very full glass of water, that then poured on the keyboard of my laptop. And I turned it upside down and shaked it a little bit, and Derek was there, and I started taking it apart as you're supposed to do. And he said, how are you so calm? I said, it's a laptop, right? Non-attachment to outcomes, non-attachment to things in the physical world is one of the benefits. And I tell you, as I've experienced the increasing sense of non-attachment in my life, it's the only way to inner peace. Byron Katie says, I don't argue with reality because I'm a spiritual person. I don't argue with reality because it hurts, right? And I would add, I never win that argument, right? Not once. So, you know, you'll get benefits from doing guided meditation and what I'd call meditation light. But where the really profound benefits come is going into quiet mind or even still mind. How many have a regular or daily meditation practice? Excellent. How many have that experience of going into still mind for, and this is a challenge I realize, for 20, 30 seconds with not a thought? That's phenomenal. Excellent. That's where it is. And so that's the kind of meditation that I invite people into. When I did the workshop the other night, we use different techniques. And each practice, and I find that every person is different, and so different techniques or meditation styles will work for one person and not for another, and vice versa. And so I'll present a technique and then go into silence for a period of time, then another technique and then silence. And I'm going to give you a little taste of that. We're going to do about a 3-minute meditation before we're done here. I want to share a story about my teenage days and how it relates to meditation. And I've only shared this, what I'm going to share with you, I've only shared twice before in my life in front of a group of people. Once in Edmonton about 3 weeks ago, and once about 15 years ago when I was speaking in front of a group called the Book Publicists of Southern California. And there was a reporter who wanted to do an article on me and my work in our local paper, and she was in the audience. And so I was talking about this experience in my teenage years when I was a drug addict, addicted to pot, I tried every drug except for heroin. I had, at one point, a $100 a day cocaine habit. So at 16 years old, you might wonder, how did he support that? And it's because I was a very successful entrepreneur, because I sold the stuff. Successful in the sense that it brought in a lot of money, unsuccessful in the sense that I snorted all the profits, right? And so She was in the audience, and 2 days later, the article came out with a headline that said, "Drug dealer turns life coach." Not the publicity I was hoping to get, but all publicity is good publicity. So, and I started meditating at 18 years old, as I said. Excuse me. And there was a little bit of overlap there. I didn't go from drug addiction to meditation. There was some overlap there. But at some point, I started to realize that meditation, better I got at it, was a way better high than drugs. And so when I decided that drugs were no longer serving me, cocaine was no longer serving me, a lot of people need to go through programs, and I stopped it like that. And it didn't occur to me until I was lecturing about this 3 weeks ago, the connection between, I think the reason for that is because meditation was so balancing in my life that when I made that decision, it was simple, it was easy. And that's another benefit. Deep meditation makes everything in life easier. The deeper I go, the more I experience oneness, the more I experience unconditional love in that deep, sacred space, deep within the mystery, the more life becomes easier, the more spaciousness there is in my life, the more synchronicity that comes up. This book, Meditation, and I used to think, I was good at manifestation, but it took a lot of work, right? And I remember lecturing about 20 years ago and saying, I want to be able to manifest in the way some people do, where you write a book, you go into Starbucks, and you meet a publisher, and it's published like that. I self-published my first book. St. Martin's Press called me up, asked me to write this book, all through a number of synchronicities that occurred. I could not have believed, if you would have told me 20 years ago, how easy and fun life could be. The message of that, the simple message that I offer to everyone, is when we are living from an inner experience of freedom, joy, and love, everything else in life lines up perfectly. We don't even have to know, we don't even have to understand at a cognitive level everything that is in the Science of Mind book, everything that's in every self-help book that you could ever read comes into play easily and effortlessly without even have to know it, when we're simply experiencing inner joy and love. Thank you. That's how easy life can be. So I want to read you a passage from Swami Sivananda, who says, in samadhi, which it's said that if we can be in sustained silent mind for somewhere around 3 minutes, doesn't have to be exact, we go into samadhi, which is pure bliss, which becomes sustained. I've achieved that a few times in my life, and it is a profound. I'll read you a passage about my own experience with this in a few moments. But in samadhi, or supreme consciousness, superconsciousness rather, the meditator's senses, mind, and intellect cease functioning. Just as the river joins the ocean, the individual mixes with supreme soul. All limitations and differences appear. The meditator attains the highest knowledge and eternal bliss. Anyone here, have you taught practical mysticism here? Anyone take that course? Based on the teachings of St. Teresa of Avila. When I taught that class, and reading her description of mystical prayer is completely synonymous with samadhi. Stage 4 of mystical prayer she calls rapture. All of your faculties fade away, and the Lord gathers up your soul. Your hearing and thinking are dimmed, and you are carried away gently, joyfully, silently, ecstatically. And when she would reach this state, she would often begin to, by all reports, levitate. Her fellow nuns would hold her down so that she wouldn't hit the ceiling. I don't know if I'm going to get to that stage of meditation. So I'm going to give you a few tips for silent meditation, for going into that deep place that I share in the book and I share in my workshops. How many, by the way, have given up, have tried meditation and give it up because it just seems too hard to stop that monkey mind? Anyone? Well, good. But this is what I see happens for a lot of people, is they give up because they think it's so difficult. So how I define meditation, and Reverend Marjorie said this in her meditation this morning, which was beautiful, by the way. By the way, if you don't come for the meditation before service, I want to invite you to do that because it's profound. And then everything happens in the service can be absorbed at a deeper level as a result of that deep dive, right? So I define meditation not as, being in still mind, but as going in and out of still mind. Everything in life is a cycle, right? And so what that means then is, because if I'm defining meditation as being in still mind, I'm going to probably feel like I'm failing a lot of the time, because that is the nature of the mind to keep running its wheel, right? But if I define it as going in and out of still mind, then even if I'm in still mind for 1 second, I am succeeding. I am meditating. And then the more we practice, the more it becomes easier and easier. It's just like any other muscle that we might exercise. It gets better and better, easier and easier. And so expect it to be easy. Everything in life, meditation is a perfect metaphor for life. Everything in life is what we name it to be. If I expect it to be difficult, if I'm going into it thinking this is going to be hard, it's going to be hard. So expect it to be easy and make it fun, right? There are some people, I had somebody in my workshop a few weeks ago who had just been on a weekend with Deepak Chopra, and then she was in my meditation workshop, and she said, this was so much easier to go deep because I didn't have to think about sitting in a certain way and saying a certain mantra in a certain way. Again, to be flexible, to make your meditation experience fun. There's a story about a new meditation student that went to his guru and said, so how long do you think it'll take till I reach enlightenment? And the guru said, knowing you and your personality and your dedication, I'd say about 20 years. The student said, well, what if I like increase my habit and I work harder and I double and triple my practice? He said, 40 years, right? So make it fun. Next tip is the one that I find that when I do workshops, I get the most feedback of that was the most helpful thing. Wrote an article in Science of Mind magazine with these tips in the August issue. And I'm on the editorial advisory committee, and somebody on that committee said, that tip has completely changed my meditation practice. He was a meditator of many decades. So it is this: invite thoughts. In Buddhism and mindfulness meditation, we say observe the thoughts. I take that a step further. Invite the thoughts in, because this is another perfect metaphor. Anything in life that we resist not only persists, it magnifies. So my motto is invite everything, resist nothing. So when the thought comes in, or the feeling, or the sensation, invite it into the experience. I assume that any thought that comes into my presence in meditation is coming in because it wants to meditate with me. It wants to become more whole. It wants to be part of the bliss and the peace. And just notice when we practice this in a moment, if that thought just dissolves into that peace easily and effortlessly. Another thing that occurred to me very recently is when we meditate in a large group, most people go deeper. So I assume that every thought I call in is another part of me that's coming in to meditate with me. So there's more of us in here meditating together, and the vibration raises. Another tip is to, rather than trying to meditate, turn it over to Spirit. Let Spirit meditate you. Play with that. I'm going to read you one more passage about about it being easy. This is from Gangaji, a North American spiritual teacher. It says, "Be still. It takes no effort to be still. It is utterly simple. When your mind is still, you have no name, you have no past, you have no relationships, you have no country, you have no spiritual attainment, you have no lack of spiritual attainment. There is just the presence of beingness with itself." This is how I wrote about my experience in Meditation and the Magic of the Soul, my first book. "Once we succeed at stilling the mind through meditation or surrender, the peace we experience is beyond description. Today in my morning meditation, I reached a level of peace so profound I didn't want to leave it. I felt that the energy that I am, beyond my self-identity, was more real, more solid than how I experience myself in physical form. I was completely connected. No, more than completely connected. I was one in that moment with the energy of all life. Tears streamed down my face as they are now while I write these words and re-experience the sensation, because the experience was filled with such beauty, but they were not my tears. They were the tears of all life flowing through a particular identification known as Patrick. I experienced my personality, or the personality of Patrick, as one aspect of that one life. No more or less important, and just as beautiful in that moment than the grass it sat on, the trees surrounding it, and the wind flowing all around it." So let me tell you a little bit about the workshop we're doing later today. It's called The Joy Factor, a Life of Infinite Freedom. It's done on a love offering basis. And what we're going to do, we'll start out the workshop. I'm going to share a practice that's the most important work I do with people, with my clients and in workshops, with how to keep the vibration high and positive in moments of great challenge. And then we're going to focus on your vision for your most joyful, ideal life. And then I'm going to share with you a practice that may sound completely impractical, but I'm going to demonstrate how it's the most practical thing you can do for your life. That is to wake up in the morning, ask what will bring me the most joy today, and I mean long-term joy, not instant gratification, and then go do that thing. I'll show you how that's the most practical thing we can do. So, do I have time for a joke? Maybe? I'll save it for the workshop. So I'll just tell you one more quick story. And really, the most important thing that comes from this deep experience of oneness is self-love. It's the most important thing, I believe, in any teaching. And I believe that foundations, in fact, that ought to be the major theme. Because I meet people in our movement who have been through the classes, who can understand the principles, who can say the most beautiful spiritual mind trees, but many of them don't like themselves very much. And you can't manifest any more than you feel you deserve, which is all about self-love. So when I was speaking at Asilomar 15 years ago, and The Magic of the Soul had just come out, everyone was thanking me for writing the book. But one minister came up to me, greatest compliment I ever received. She put her hands on my shoulders. She looked me in the eyes and she said, "I want to thank you for writing this book. I was teaching the book. We were in chapter 3, which is all about loving ourselves, not in spite of our humanness, but because of our humanness. Even because of the fact that I can attract illness into my life." She said, "I was diagnosed with breast cancer at that moment. And if it was not for that synchronicity, I would have judged myself for attracting this situation in my life. In fact, I would have even beat myself up." She said, "If it wasn't for that synchronicity, where I was able to just surrender into it and love myself, not in spite of, but because of the situation, I would not have healed as quickly or as fully." So, the most important thing in life is to love yourself no matter what. That's the phrase I offer to my clients. I love myself no matter what, because it's easy to love ourselves when we just did something really cool, right? The true test of self-love is when I can love myself when I make a mistake that costs me $20,000, when I say something that hurts somebody I care about. When I can love myself in those moments, then I know I love myself. It came to me in these words not long ago, speaking to a client about self-love. When I love myself unconditionally, what I realize is that I am not myself. I am in fact the self. I am in fact pure love. And so are you. Thank you.
Wow, it's very inspiring. Thank you very much.